Thames path, where you'll be learning lots of facts and stories from Hammersmith to Chelsea. In the early 1800s, the Black Lion pub was haunted by a ghost of a shoemaker. The terrifying ghost roamed the streets and lanes around the nearby graveyard. Did you know that a lady was scared by the ghost and didn't recover, dying soon after? Local men decided to hunt the ghost, accidentally shooting an innocent man in the process. This is Kelmscott House, a Georgian brick mansion on 26 Upper Mall. William Morris lived here. He made wallpapers and carpets, which were very popular in England.
Why did William Morris move to Hammersmith?
Well, Morris came to Hammersmith for a few reasons. Firstly, it was actually quite cheap to live here. Other reason was he really loved the Thames. It provided a lot of inspiration for his writings and his design work. There were three main types of work that Morris did while he was living here. There was the Kelmscott Printing Company he founded. There was the Hammersmith carpets. The carpets that he made for people to buy to have in their rooms were actually made here back in 1878. When Morris became more political, in 1883 he joined the Social Democratic Federation, and this became the meeting hall of the Hammersmith Socialists.
Did you know that the Dove pub holds the Guinness World Record for the world's smallest public bar? Also, this used to be a coffee shop. It was very popular with local people, including William Morris. We visited Furnival Gardens and discovered that this was once a site of Hammersmith Creek, where many industries flourished 150 years ago. Boat builders, fisheries and malt houses all thrived nearby. It was a very different place 150 years ago.
Did you know Hammersmith Bridge was designed by Sir Joseph Bazalgette and opened in 1887? The current bridge was built to replace the original bridge, which was the first suspension bridge over the River Thames and was designed by William Turney Clark. The area started to become more industrial during the Victorian times with distilleries, oil, marble, sugar and sweet factories until the 1970s. Now it consists of offices and residential buildings.
The Thames Wharf used to store oil, but now it's home to the famous River Cafe and offices. There is a jetty by Palace Wharf that they use to bring goods such as marble, but there isn't much of the jetty left.
Fulham Football Club's Craven Cottage. The name comes from the original cottage that was here a long time ago when this area was more rural. Did you know this is the oldest football club in London?
Why was Fulham Football Club built by the river?
So I don't think there was a conscious decision to build Fulham Football Club right by the River Thames. In fact, before Fulham had settled here at Craven Cottage, Fulham had played at 8 different venues. Since the club settled here, it has become synonymous with being on the banks of the Thames, the only London club on the banks of the Thames.
Can you tell us about Craven Cottage and where it's get its name from?
Before this was built as a stadium, there used to be a cottage which would have stood right in the middle of our football pitch. And why it's called Craven Cottage? Well, right behind me you can see the cottage, and that was built by Archibald Leach, who was a Scottish architect who also built the stand that we're in now. And the reason why he built the cottage in the corner is because in this stand he forgot to put the dressing rooms.
We looked at the history around Bishop's Park. There is so much to see around here.
In 1884, the church gave the land to the local government and the park was opened in 1893. The park runs from Fulham Football Club to Putney Bridge. In 1903, there was a bandstand. It was very popular because it was the only place to listen to music. In the early 1900s, Bishop's Park had a place called the Sands. It would be very busy because people who couldn't afford a holiday could go there instead. It was like a beach there where lots of sand and water to paddle in, and even some boats to make it look like a seaside. Next to the park is Fulham Palace, the oldest building in this area. It is a beautiful place where the Bishops of London lived for many years.
Why was Fulham Palace built in this area?
It was first built by a Bishop of London called Bishop Waldheer way back around 700 AD. But the location, we think, is because it was close to the river, because the river was like the M25 of its day, and that was the quickest way to get from A to B.
What was Bishop's Park originally used for?
A lot of it was for farming, for market gardens, great orchards. Different bits of the land would have been used for different purposes. So down near the river, where it got flooded a lot, it wasn't very valuable land for farming. So when it wasn't flooded, it was usually used for grazing.
There are many other old buildings around this area, like All Saints Church. There has been a church here for more than 900 years. Putney Bridge was built by the fantastic Sir Basil Shett in 1886. Instead of the amazing Putney Bridge, there used to be a wooden bridge called Fulham Bridge.
In the early 19th century, Fulham was a village outside London providing the city with fruit and vegetables from farms and markets, gardens.
Why did the Sullivan family choose to live so close to the River Thames?
The Thames was the main route that people could travel in London because the roads weren't very well developed. So people would buy lovely houses on the edge of the river so they could get to them very easily. Also, like today, the air in London was very bad, so if you could move just a little bit out of London, you got lovely fresh air.
We are going to tell you how Charlotte Sullivan, who lived during the Victorian times, helped the people in Fulham and the area around Broomhouse Lane.
We have heard that Charlotte Sullivan was very kind. What did she do for the people of Fulham?
She was a very great benefactress. I think she was taking over from her father, Lawrence, who built the Elizabethan schools. I think you've all seen the Gothic school up there, which he built as a ragged school. This was for the very poor children of Fulham.
We are now standing where the former Broomhouse used to be. It was demolished in 1911 after Charlotte Sullivan died. The grounds are now part of the Hurlingham Club. The Hurlingham Club was established in 1869. It was originally a pigeon shooting club, but now it is an exclusive member club where lots of sports are played.
Why is it not possible for the Thames path to follow the river at this point?
This is one of the very few bits of the foreshore that's left that is as it was in the past, and it has a lot of marine life and things which have been able to survive here, whereas further down the Thames with all this building, all of this has been lost. So it's now designated as an area of special interest and therefore is protected.
The Broomhouse dock was an access point to the river with a slope to allow horses and carts to get to the foreshore to load or unload barges.
The original Wandsworth Bridge was a tall iron bridge built in 1873. It was narrow and too weak to carry buses. In 1937, the old bridge was demolished and the new bridge was opened in 1940. As this was during the war, the new bridge was painted in dull shades of blue to camouflage it against German air raids. This is the Fulham Jetty. In the past, barges used to bring coal and cranes on the jetty would put it on a conveyor belt and transport it to the Fulham power station to produce electricity. The Fulham Jetty is now used as a showroom to sell riverside flats. Imperial Wharf today is a residential area that is full of nice flats and is a clean and healthy place, but it wasn't always like this. Back then, instead of homes, there were factories and power stations which polluted the area. It was an unhealthy environment, dirty and grimy. We're here at Counters Creek. Counters Creek is one of London's so-called lost rivers. It used to run from Kensal Green to the Thames. By the early 19th century, Counters Creek had become an open sewer. It was covered by a railway line. This underground stream now forms the boundary between the boroughs of Hammersmith and Fulham and Kensington and Chelsea. Lotts Road Power Station opened in 1905, and at the time it was claimed to be the biggest power station in the world.
Its energy powered most of the railways in the London Underground. In the 1960s, it converted from coal to gas, and the number of chimneys reduced from the original 4 to only 2. It was shut down on 2002. Now, the power station is under development.
Did you know that Cromwell Gardens opened in 1845 and used to be a pleasure garden? The Pleasure Gardens was a noisy and colourful place, and Victorian people came here for entertainment, dancing and picnics. Balloon ascents were popular too, as in those days airplanes had not been invented, so this was a rare opportunity to see London from the sky. The artist Walter Greaves owned a business with his family here, where they built and rented rowing boats. They also worked as river taxis, taking passengers up and down the river. The current Battersea Bridge was built in 1885 and was designed by Sir Joseph Bazalgette. It is the narrowest bridge over the Thames in London. It is made out of iron and granite, and it is quite strong, but it has not always been like this. The old Battersea Bridge was made out of wood. It was hard for boats to get under it because it was very low. It had 19 pillars and is on the narrow bend in the river. Boats often crashed into it. The old bridge was painted by many famous artists like Turner, Whistler and Greaves.
Sir Joseph Bazalgette designed the embankment, and it was opened in 1874. It was designed to provide London with a modern sewage system after the Great Stink in 1853. It brought many positive changes to the area. The river is now cleaner, doesn't flood so easily, and it provides a wide path to enjoy walking and cycling along the river. This is Albert Bridge. It was built in 1873 during the Victorian era. It is nicknamed the Trembling Lady because it shook when lots of people walked over it. The sign on the toll booth tells troops to break step because when they marched together the bridge shook, and that's how it got its nickname. Cheyne Walk takes its name from Lord Cheyne, who owned the manor of Chelsea until 1712. One of the most interesting people who lived in the area was Dante Rossetti, a Victorian painter who lived at number 16. Rossetti liked to keep exotic animals, and there are many stories about it. Our favourite story is when Rossetti bought a toucan, which he dressed in a cowboy hat and trained it to ride a llama around the dining room table to entertain his guests. Chelsea Physic Garden was founded in 1673 to discover, cultivate and study plants for scientific and medical purposes. It is the second oldest botanical garden in Britain. It contains hundreds of plants from all around the world, from medical plants to carnivorous ones and ferns. Sir Hans Sloane is considered the garden's saviour, and thanks to him, the garden only pays £5 a year in rent.
Why was Chelsea Physic Garden built by the Thames riverside?
The Physic Garden was set up by the River Thames because the Worshipful Society of Apothecaries, who started it in 1673, needed a place to park their boat, and it was very useful having a place which was actually on the riverside.
What has been the impact of the garden in the British economy and the wider world?
The garden's role in the British economy was certainly really helpful, using the Wardian case to transport seedlings of tea plants from China to India, but also for plants such as rubber, to set up plantations for the Victorians in Malaysia.
Well, that's it from us. We hope you enjoyed it.
Come along the Thames path to discover more yourself.
There's some folks who always worry, and some folks who never care. But in this world of rush and hurry, it matters neither here nor there. Be steady and realistic. Don't hanker for gold or gems. Be carefree and optimistic, like old Father